If you become regimented, you will become a machine. The way to do this is to commit yourself, submit yourself to something larger than you. And when people say that, they usually mean some ideal, a God. And that's certainly one way to do it, but it can also be a system. You are no longer in charge. Actually, your whims and your feelings are no longer in charge. I'm talking about designing a system that's specifically tailored to you, your needs, your day, your cadence, your rhythm, your goals, everything. This is a living, evolving system that you design, test, tweak, update, and it keeps moving along with you. It's something that you should, in some regard, have no control over. There's this interesting anecdote or story that they tell about the old Greeks, which stuck with me when I heard it. Apparently, the Greeks, when they went to war, they landed on the shores of their enemies, and the first thing they did is burn their boats behind them. What this did was give them no way out. The only way out was through. You had to win. And this is kind of how I look at this, where you manipulate your environment, shape your environment to put yourself in a position where you are suddenly forced to do things. Now, the example of the burning ships sounds very dramatic, right? But it can be, in this day and age, as simple as in my 20s, I sold my Xbox to simply no longer give myself an opportunity to be distracted, to waste time, to procrastinate. And this is what I mean by shaping your system or your surroundings, your environment in such a way, designing it in such a way that your preferred action is no longer a choice or an option, it's the only way out. And once you start looking at your life in those terms, a lot of things become easier because a lot of energy, attention, time is lost in fighting yourself, in keeping your self-control about things that are like just in reach. So you're constantly, it's constantly flirting with you. You're being seduced. You don't want this. Just shut it out and it's no longer there. A more timely example about my own life right now would be that I've come to a point where my planning, the tasks, my daily tasks and schedule is there's so much to be done that if I lose out on certain tasks and am not on task with that right at the start of the day, you get behind on the day And now it becomes a cascading effect where like everything, you're like behind on your mission the whole day, and everything just, it gets worse and worse. So one way to do this, and it's interesting because this ties in with boxing and martial arts training as well, is this might be familiar, where you are doing drills and you are doing rounds, and the instructor, the teacher, will set a timer. And the timer is preset. You go for rounds of maybe 3 minutes, and then there's a 30-second break. And this goes on for maybe 3 rounds, maybe 6 rounds, whatever it may be. It is preset, and now you're working for that set amount. Well, you can apply the same principles to your daily work routine. We all know about like the Pomodoro technique, and I've tried it, but personally where I go wrong is sometimes I just forget to set the timer. When it goes off, I sometimes continue working because I'm kind of like in the task and I want to finish it, but in finishing it, before you know it, I'm actually beyond even like the next slot of time. So that's not working either. So I figured, why not add these two ideas together and basically set timers for your workday in stretches of, I'm trying right now, 25 minutes. And it's very interesting. The timer goes off at the top of the hour. I start. 25 minutes later, it goes off again as a reminder for me to take a 5-minute break. I do some mobilizing, I get up, I drink some water, I stretch. Also things that I should be doing hourly or at least a couple times a day, and I don't do because I forget it, or I get too locked in with the task at hand. I get in the zone and I get in the flow, and that's great. But you forget about these things, and there's like task creep, there's time creep. You start working on things that sort of land on your plate instead of the actual task that you set out to do. So there is this, you become reactive. That's it. You become reactive. And this helps you reset, take you out of that, and approach the next task. After that 5-minute window, the timer goes off again. Now it's the next slot. You focus on the next task that you had planned for that moment. And things can still shift around a bit. Maybe you find out that, hey, actually this is more important than that next task. Usually it isn't, because you planned it that way. So that means it is important. You thinking it's now not important is usually some form of avoidance, right? But this helps you stay on track for that goal. So this is the timer, this is the technique, this is the system I'm talking about. Of course, the system is much larger than this. This is just one piece out of that system that I've recently added on. You know, other pieces might be planning your next day every evening, reviewing your day at the end of each day. You might have a set schedule where it's like, maybe every morning you do deep work, maybe every afternoon you do more dynamic, social type work. Maybe you plan it out in some other different way that's optimal for you. Maybe you do scheduled, planned outreach one time a day, because maybe you do that for 1 hour each day, and do that each day because if you do it for 2 or 3 hours, you kind of get wired. These are all examples that are very personal. But the point is that you are designing and working on some frameworks that you operate within. And those frameworks become larger than you, and they set a structure that you can operate in, and that put guardrails on you that allow you to stay on track. And if you don't, it forces you back in. These are the things that you got to think of. Start designing a system specifically for you. Start tweaking it. Start testing it. And start updating it. And let it become the thing that's larger than you, that you submit yourself to, and that keeps you on track for the mission and for the goal. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.